Hello, everybody. This is Carrie, and you're listening to the Carry On with Carrie Fitz podcast. I'm Carrie Fitz, owner and broker of Carrie Fitz Real Estate. Our podcast has beneficial information to both agents and consumers. Check back in for new episodes every Tuesday. In today's episode, we're discussing buyer representation agreements. What is it, and what are the advantages? When you help a seller, you typically have them sign a contract. It's called a listing agreement, and it's a legal contract that gives you the right to sell your client's home on their behalf. With this agreement, you can market your client's home, get potential buyers, receive a commission or compensation for your work. Basically, its purpose is to represent the seller and find a buyer for the property. But how about when it comes to helping out a buyer? How does a buyer representation agreement work? Upon signing the contract, the buyer agrees to work with the real estate agent until they purchase a property or the contract expires. If a transaction takes place, the real estate agent will receive compensation based on either the home sales price or a flat fee or whatever is discussed and agreed to. The compensation is then paid at closing. It's basically a written agreement with what you've talked about with your buyer, and everybody signs off once it's agreed to. So what are the advantages for the buyer? Well, there are several. One advantage is that this creates a special agreement between the buyer and the agent. It assures them that you'll guide them in their home buying process. The buyer can be confident that you'll look for their best interest and promise loyalty and confidentiality. With this contract, the agent can negotiate on the buyer's behalf. An article from NAR mentioned that it's an opportunity to explain to your clients what role in the transaction you play and how they will benefit from your services. Agents carry a wealth of knowledge about the local market, trends, and property values. Who wouldn't want somebody with this level of expertise by their side? What are the advantages for an agent? Well, this creates a formal relationship between you and the buyer. It assures commitment and loyalty from the buyer, and it helps prevent misunderstandings. It also provides some transparency for the buyer and the agent, so both parties know exactly what to expect from each other. It clarifies expectations. Overall, this can enhance your reputation and credibility. What should the contract contain? Well, it should have the legal names of every party member, terms of the agreement, a start date and an end date, expectations of the agent and the buyer, the scope of representation, the compensation, and the signatures. So when should the agent have them sign it? According to NAR, this will go into effect on August 17th, and it's going to require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into a written agreement with the buyer prior to touring a property. So whereas before, and I did this too, I might meet a potential buyer at a property that they had interest in seeing. I would show them the property, I'd talk to them, and it may be a couple of properties. I'd kind of get to know them, they would kind of get to know me, so that we would kind of decide, yes, we want to work together, and then I would have them sign this buyer's agreement. I know me, and I know that if I was not an agent, and some agent on my first meeting with them started shoving paperwork at me saying, sign this, I can't work with you unless you sign this, I'd say, well, then I need to reschedule, because I am not going to sign stuff, as soon as I meet somebody. So the way that we're going to have to do it starting August 17th, and we have gotten, and I've been talking to my agents in the office, encouraging them to do it as we're going to have to do it August 17th, just to get in practice, because it's a little uncomfortable. Practice the conversation that they have with these buyers, so it's not an awkward looking around kind of discussion. Everybody needs to be comfortable with this so that on August 17th, when now you're going to be required to be pushing this paperwork in front of buyers to have them sign, we're good. But it is an uncomfortable thing. It is for me. But just like most change, once everybody's doing it, once you get comfortable with it, once you know how, it's easy. Everything's easy once you know how. So we're starting this and practicing this now. In conclusion, a buyer representation agreement helps maintain a positive working relationship and a productive real estate transaction. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in to Carry On with Carrie Fitz. I'm Carrie Fitz. Until next time.